today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
Welcome to episode 49 of Shop Talk. We're recapping 113 today, titled Caught Stealing. We're finally back after like 2 weeks off, which was much needed. And we are ready to rock and roll during this hiatus because we have some good stuff planned. So, but for now we're covering 113, just kind of getting back into the swing of things, where we'll discuss the rookies training and how much of a badass Lucy Chen is, and the fact that Chen West was so hung up on creme brulee. So
that was like a theme for sure.
Yeah.
So funny.
And there's no news to share because it's hiatus, so we'll just dive right in. Like, we're gonna cut right to it. So
yeah. So for Nolan anyway, I thought this moment was so funny when he walks in and like everyone's like sitting down for roll call and Gray's sitting in his seat telling him that he's the one that's going to do roll call today, and he's like, sir, like with a questioning look on his face, and Gray, I will not do it justice how Richard did it, but he's just like, I didn't stutter, get up there. And it just, I don't know why, but it reminds me of if people have watched The Office and they know Stanley's character, and his
Stanley is a savage.
Yeah, his like the line that's always like gift in things is like, did I stutter? Like, that's what it reminded me of.
Honestly, Nolan's face though, like when he saw Gray, like, why is the man so memeable?
I know.
Honestly, I just want to know.
I know. Well, like the rookie rewatch people, you know, they like have an Instagram account now, and one of the things was they did like, which Nyla mood are you?
Yeah.
And I seriously, we should probably make like a Nolan one or like a Gray, like
definitely
one or something.
Yeah,
those
definitely.
two just have the best faces.
The best expressions. Like, every episode, you can at least count on one of them to give you a memeable. Well, even the rookie rewatch ladies did a Twitter thread about like eyewear on the rookie, and I totally forgot about Gray's glasses, and I was like, oh my god, those are the best. Like that just that screen grab, perfect. Whole meme right there.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then I don't know how I didn't notice this for the amount of times that I've probably only seen this episode probably like 3 times, maybe 4 by now, if you count this rewatch. But I did not notice Tim's face looking at Nolan. Like, his jaw wasn't like dropped, but he was like kind of looking, like his face was tilted downward.
Yeah.
And he was kind of just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, is this actually happening right now?
Tim has a really good like WTF face.
Yeah, for sure. And so John like ends up like going up to the wow, I couldn't think of the word podium. I was like, what is it called? So John's up there. He is he's like, where do I start? And Gray's like, the clipboard. So he looks down, is reading off of the clipboard, and Gray like barely lets him finish before he's asking like if he actually knows what police entitlement means. And John recites the gratuity policy for officers, and Gray then tells Jackson and Lucy to join him up there, and asked if their training officers like had discussed this policy with them, and they had. I love how each like training officer like had a different answer that really just like showed their personalities really well. And like I kind of missed that because I think it was you that had said there are no more like original like training officers, really.
Yeah, after the season 4 finale, because Angela, or not Angela, Nyla's gonna stay detective. Like, there's no more OG training officers, and really, like, the only partnership that's OG still is Chenford.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, they carry the show, so yeah.
But it just watching these like throwback episodes just like reminded me
Yeah.
of how much I kind of miss like the individuality. Like I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
right word, but just the little bit of like spotlight on like their personalities, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and they've all grown so much too.
So true.
Just like, oh, where would Jackson West be now? Like grown
That
wise.
hurts me.
I'm sorry.
That
But it
hurts me
hurts
so
me to
much.
think about it
I
too.
know. I know. It was so like nice to see his face
Yeah.
um on the screen again. Um but yeah, anyway, so Angela's answer was like maybe my favorite because she's just like it's just community relations with like a shrug of her shoulders, like she's just kind of like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Tim since they're BFFs, he just kind of like taps her and is like doesn't mean we have to show favoritism. And Gray asked Talia if she like agrees with that, and she's like usually it's the exception, not the rule. I did like how Gray pointed out like Nolan's living situation at the time. Of course, John is like, well, I exchange, services. Like he takes care of things around the house in exchange for living in Ben's guest house. And Gray ponders aloud, what would happen if that exchange were to run out. And so that's kind of like where they like leave it, and John is kind of left thinking about that as the day progresses. So it's definitely kind of interesting because
Gray
he even
really.
like,
Oh, go
oh
ahead.
yeah, oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say like he even like asked Talia if like he's kind of like compromised living at
Yeah.
Ben's house, and yeah, I don't know, it's just interesting.
Gray really makes John like rethink a lot of things, or at least just
Oh,
like reflect on
definitely.
them. Like I would say Gray more so than anyone else, like
Yeah.
makes John kind of do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because like he's like one of the only people that I guess it is because like he is like an authority figure or like over him, but it's like he's also the same like within the same like age
Yeah.
bracket. So it's like it's not so much he's like talking down to him or like saying something that John might not even like really know what it is, if it's like a
Yeah.
millennial thing or whatever, but it's just like a like truth that like he just says it and that's that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I liked Talia's honesty though, because she was like, yeah, you are. And John kind of looked at her and she's like, well, you asked. Like what like what did you want me to say? But their first call, they pull up to a car crash where the victim was stabbed. The car is registered to a Matthew Rodriguez, who they assume is the guy that was stabbed and is taking off from the ambulance, like literally hops out the back, starts running over and jumps off the bridge. And they lose him there. And they later discover that their stabbing victim is not actually Matthew Rodriguez, because the actual Matthew Rodriguez has a rap sheet with gang orders. And Talia asks John if he knows what that means, and he reiterates that it's an order where they're not supposed to associate with gangs at all, or like wear their colors or be in their neighborhoods. And Talia says that the odds are that this that Matthew Rodriguez is connected to their John Doe stabbing. Although Talia is like it's a likely scenario because when she does it, it's a likely scenario, not just a plain assumption. As John finds out. So I just kind of I miss the like Tio rookie like banter. Like it was nice to just have it in this episode.
I miss
So,
having it like all the time because we had it with Aaron and Nyla in season 4, but it was not consistent enough. Like it was, every few episodes or whatever. And I just really want it like consistently again. Like I feel like that would be a good thing, even if it's like one or two like throwaway lines or whatever
yeah.
per
Oh, for
episode. That
sure.
would be really good.
Hmm. Yeah. And so later on, they find out that the real Matthew Rodriguez is dead. He was killed by their John Doe. So now the stabbing victim went from like a victim to a suspect to now a murderer, essentially. So it's kind of back to a suspect again. But before they can really like do anything more, Talia and John are called up to Captain Anderson's office, which RIP, I miss Zoe a lot.
Yeah. I just love how she was just like, she was just like subtle about her badassness. Like she didn't try and like pull rank on people. Like she had the HVAC energy without really like having it, if that makes sense. Like she didn't try and make it like so known that she was their captain. She like it just she was there. So
Well, I think she was the one that was like, you don't tell. I wish I could remember the quote verbatim. Now I can't. It was either like, you don't tell people you're a badass, you show them, or I can't remember if it was vice versa or not. But
yeah. I mean, she's
think
definitely like said, like I'm the captain and like I'm in charge here or whatever, but she doesn't do it as often. So
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, she's like a boss without being a bitch.
yeah. Yep.
Essentially. But anyway, so they're called into Zoe's office, and John's like, "That's the guy." And I just pointed. No one's gonna see this. I don't know why I keep doing that. I need to not. Maybe one of these days we'll put out a clip if we ever had something good
Yeah.
to share, but we
Yeah.
don't. So don't
No.
hold your breath, people. But anyway, sorry. I'm all over the place. All right, it's fine. Reining it back in. There, the John Doe is an undercover narcotics officer named Robert Ortiz, and he's been under with drug cartel to find out when their shipment is going out. And he's like volunteered to go back under, and Gray's team is going to help stage the raid. And Zoe reminds them to be prepared, and the rookies, they have the little montage, and the rookies go over things like their tactical gear, the special ops RAM, and like the layout of the house. I just enjoyed like where like how the team goes it like each like they put their hands on each shoulder, and like Tim goes first technically, but Lucy's so little with the battering ram. Like it was fun. And she knocked it down in like one go. So really, per Tim's earlier comment, like only one shot would need to be bought, or like one round, I guess, of drinks. Which again, another scene we were robbed of is like.
And honestly, I would have been
going out
fine
to
with
drink.
more rounds of drinks being bought. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
but still, like, yeah, I just thought it was so funny because, like, I just remember when he gave her the ram, and she's like, "Okay, this is a
Yeah.
lot." But anyway, so they take down the criminals in the house, and Gray pulls the rookies aside for their special assignment, which is to guard the money until the counters get there. So Jackson, Lucy, and John kind of fantasize a little about what they do with the money. $1 million is a lot of cash. So, like things from like Lucy would buy a helicopter to, John would pay off for all of Henry's tuition. They'd get out of, student loan debt and things like that. Jackson would go on vacation maybe or travel. But then Jackson, being the moral compass in that moment is like some cops would cross the line. And he's heard stories about how cops have crossed the line, and then the creme brulee makes an appearance.
Yeah.
That's always fun because still no one really understands what he's talking about. So
Yep.
it's kind of entertaining.
Did you notice how when Grace said no selfies, he like pointed at Jackson?
No, I didn't notice
I was
that.
like, dude, why?
It's
But
funny.
also, yeah, probably safe bet to point to him.
That's funny. No, I didn't notice that.
And
But
we
yeah.
got some Lucy backstory on her parents at that
Yeah,
point.
because her parents were bankrupt for when she was 9, and they had to like find their way back after a couple like bad years.
Mm-hmm.
Which like I'm kind of wondering if I'm sure that like impacted her like family dynamic with like her mom and stuff too.
Yeah. Well, and now knowing like what we do about her dad, like, and it wasn't even her biological dad, it's kind of like, ooh, more Lucy backstory, please. Season 5, like, give it to us.
I know if we don't get like a scene with her mom at some point, I will just like be bummed out.
Same.
But so Talia reminds John, well, John has to pee. That's been his thing since he put on the freaking tactical gear. Okay. He's like, what if I have to pee? And Talia just like looked at him earlier and he was like, it's fine. I'll hold it. Like, it's good. And so he has to go to the bathroom. He's like trying to find said bathroom. And Lucy and Jackson are still guarding the money. Because 2 people have to be with it at all times, as Gray told them. And so he's just like trying to find the bathroom. Talia reminds him to get in early tomorrow to fill out the paperwork for this like whole operation. And I love how he like tried to ask her where the bathroom was and she had already walked away, and he's like, nope, okay, I'm gonna go find it. It's fine.
The man is always a meme. Like always.
And so I thought it was a nice like moment though that like Jackson and Lucy, like you can tell like they're just like on the same like page with things when they're like they both still do the job even if they had all the money. Which I thought was nice. And so finally the money counters get there and they're free to go. So, and I mean, Lucy kind of lingered a little bit because she's like, we'll never see this much money again. And they just kind of remind her, well, if there's another raid, which I'm pretty darn sure they have since gone on numerous like drug undercover operations.
Yeah, I feel
not
like
so
they
much
have
seizing money, but still just like in the same vein. So
yeah. Well, and like you had mentioned, like, you know, why didn't we see anyone else, like anyone banging on Lucy's door or whatever? We were robbed of that because it could have been Tim, it could have been Angela, it could have been literally anyone, and I would have been like, ooh, what's this? I love it.
I mean, it's fine. Or just even like Jack. I mean, I get it. Got it. You know, it's Nolan. You know, he's the main dude, but still, like.
But even to like see Lucy's like first apartment, like in the show, would have been really cool too.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So the money counters, you know, the next day say that they're missing $250,000. So they counted that 750,000. And you know, like the only way that the rookies can be cleared by it is by passing a polygraph. And John Nolan's like, and what if we don't want to take it? And Gray's just like, well, then you can be suspended. So
yeah, I know. And like, and Zoe was there and she was like, technically I can't force you to take it, but and it just like implied that like they should. Although I didn't really like how John kind of like said we'll do it and like spoke on both Jackson and Lucy's behalf. I was like
he looked at Lucy and I was like, why does he need to speak for them? I mean, obviously they're all gonna do it, they don't want to be suspended, but like we could just have all of them saying like, okay, we'll do it. You know? Yeah, I caught that too. It was like, why does he need to like look at her to get like the nod of approval? It just didn't make any sense. But then like in the polygraph, you know, they say that like this test can like even sense like what your buttocks is doing and like, you know, if you're clenching and like all of these different things. And John's just like, what am I doing now? And then they're just like, well, you know, like they just kind of like move on from it. But his deadpan was just too good. Um, and then it was also asked if Lucy has lied to protect another officer. And we it was kind of a subtle flashback to 108. Like we didn't see any like actual flashbacks, but at first watching this because I saw your note in the outline, I was like, wait, 108, like
Or
I had to refresh my mind on
I
that.
think that's right. I think that was the time of
Because it's the
death.
infection, right?
The time of death. The one where I was just assuming that it was like a flashback where Lucy had lied and said she wasn't in Nolan's apartment that night that they rehooked up
Oh, okay.
in the like winter finale.
See, I was thinking the when Tim was like, you know, if I don't make it out of here, you know, like at least I'll know that I've had a good run.
It's like
But that was
foreshadowing.
that was season 1 finale. So
Major
I've got my episodes
foreshadowing
mixed up.
now.
Which this episode did do some foreshadowing. Like I'll mention it later on. But yeah, so they all pass their polygraphs, and detectives will call them for follow-up. So they've kind of been cleared, but yet they're not out of the woods. So Nolan and Wes are like, let's grab some beers. And Nolan's like, yeah, I got a stocked fridge. Cool flex, Nolan. Like, I don't, okay. And Lucy's just like, yeah, I just have to go look for apartments. So Jackson like probably tells Talia and Tim because they're walking by that they were cleared. And Tim just sasses back with, are we supposed to be impressed that you're not criminals? Which I mean, literally, yeah. Like I don't know if I would have like proudly bragged about that, like proudly in quotes.
Yeah.
But so then Lucy calls and you know, she's like echoing their sentiments about, you know, being cleared and all that. And so then she notices that she's being followed. And as she's on the phone with John and Jackson, you know, that SUV is following them or following her, and it ends up hitting her from behind. So she's forced off the road a bit. And then, you know, she notices that she's kind of like boxed in with other cars. So she takes off into the woods. And, you know, after being on the phone with Lucy, like Nolan and Jackson are, you know, like on the race to go and help her out. So Nolan calls Talia and, you know, tells her like what's going on. Which I would assume then that Jackson was calling Angela. I don't know.
I would think so. I just want to know who called Tim.
Yeah.
Or if anyone called Tim.
Also, like anything to do with the desert and or woods for Lucy never has a good outcome. Like, can we just stop taking her there? Because it's not good. I mean, this also kind of foreshadowed Day of Death in a way.
Yeah. Well, because she was wearing like even like a similar colored, like I mean it was a sweater, granted, but still similar.
And her hair was down, curled, like her hair throughout the entire like episode, you know, when she was like in plain clothes was chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So then, you know, Jackson and John like cleared the vehicles when they get there, and Jackson calls it in. And they take off into the woods to try and find Lucy before the criminals do. They managed to shoot one offender that got away, and John tells Jackson, you know, that he's going after Lucy. Which like again, I thought that this was weird because it's like, okay, why? Obviously, Nolan does it because it's the show, you know, about him. But like, why does John just like automatically say, I'm going after Lucy? Like, dude, yeah, you may be older than them, but like, you don't have to be the dad of the group all the time. Like, I feel like he sees himself as like the dad of the group or like the older protective like brother. And I don't know, it just doesn't always have to be done like that. But
Yeah.
So then we see Lucy, we cut over to her. She is like fighting these guys off. Like she had it. And honestly, like it kind of reminded me of the pilot when she like, had that guy, like she
Oh,
had
when
kind of
Tim.
handcuffed him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But she shot at the suspects and fought them off like all on her own, like a badass, like the badass she is. So then like she maintained her composure, telling them that she didn't steal their money. And at this point I was like, wait, there's the fake cop or the cop. So, like what's going on here? But it was all explained at the end too. Um, so then like she saw La Uma and he was the one carrying the duffel bag. She notices like his boots and she's like, I saw you the night of the raid. And he got inside before they hit the place for the raid. So she, had seen him carrying the duffel bag, had noticed his shoes. And she was in the midst of pinning him down, because he was like pinning her down. They were kind of fighting and a gun was like right by her face. Um, and she was in the midst of pinning him down when John got there and she's just like, what took you guys so long? Like, I've been out here fighting for my life by myself and where have you guys been? So, um, towards the end of the episode, Zoe stops into Robert's hospital room to confront him. And, she said Franco de Santos took it because Ortiz called him from the station to tip him off. And she tells him to enjoy the hospital pudding before officers come in with the cuffs to arrest him because he is a dirty cop. Like she was able to put the pieces together and, found that the call came from inside of the station and that there was like the hot tip. So and then at the very end of the episode we had Nolan and Ben talking. And Nolan's like, I want to pay my share of the rent and reminds him that he can't help Ben out of any jams and like everything has to be on the up and up. So he kind of circles back to Gray's comment and Ben's just like, I don't need you to pay any rent. But John's like, no, I need me to pay rent. Like I need this for myself. And so then Ben kind of like talks about how much it is. And it was just too good.
Yeah, he's like, $10,000? And he's like, dude. And he's like, okay, how about you just pay what you can afford and we'll call it even. Like, I just
Yeah.
miss their friendship. Like, they were just, I don't know. It was nice. Maybe that's why they kind of like made Gray like more comfortable with Nolan, maybe just so they could have like someone that's the similar age.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, because Ben's not around.
Yeah.
Anymore.
I kind of thought that it was funny because it was like, why are you saying 10,000? Like you clearly don't need his money.
Yeah.
To have that place, but like it doesn't need to be that much.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Yeah. So, we had Nolan like reflecting on Gray's comment. We had them doing polygraphs. We had Lucy looking like a queen and fighting like a badass. Just chef's kiss all around.
Yeah, for sure. So for Angela and Jackson, this is where the creme brulee will keep coming up. I love how at the start of the episode, like it set the tone like in roll call because Angela was like, well, Jackson like walks a straight and narrow, like she's not worried about him at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then their first call is a traffic stop because there's a woman whose dog is dying. She blew through a stop sign, and Jackson asked for her license, registration, and ended up giving her a ticket for the offense. And Angela's she like lets it play out, but then later is like, well, a warning would have been sufficient. And she also points out that they, as police officers, blow through stop signs all the time, and like drive on sidewalks and do all these things. But Jackson just was like raised differently and like doesn't really like see her side of things because the law is the law in his mind.
Yeah.
And so their second call is at a restaurant where the kitchen staff locked the scam artist in the bathroom because he's been conning women during first dates by like dining and dashing. And so Angela and Jackson go over to this woman, and she says that the guy has ordered all this stuff, and like the bill is like $680. And they like pause, and Angela's like, well, have you ordered dessert? And she's like, what? No. And I remember the first time when I watched this episode, like before I like knew anything, I was just like, yeah, why are we talking about dessert right now? This is so weird. And she's like, well, maybe get two things. And Jackson pulls her aside and realizes what she's doing. It's so they can bump the bill up to $700 to charge the woman's date with a felony.
Yeah.
And the first mention of creme brulee comes up because that's what Angela recommends. Then it cuts over. Later, she's like leaning against their shop and actually having some creme brulee herself. And Jackson has a bite, and she reminds him about the spirit of the law. So, and how that's different from the letter of the law. So, Jackson's in a break room trying to write up this report, and he's still struggling with it because of like the fact that they did like bump the bill up so much to make it a felony. He doesn't know how he should write it or like how to proceed. And so Angela comes in reminding him that she once had to write up a report about him during his first day and how he had his like, I just said it, rookie freak out moment for lack of better words.
Yeah.
But she like lied for him to like cover it up and like, make sure he moved forward in this rookie program. And while he's like grateful for that, he's still not like 100% there yet, like getting to like this like equal playing field with Angela, of like seeing eye to eye with things, I guess is what I'm trying to say. She then asks him if he has like a do or die type of knife, and Jackson's like, yeah, I do, like half the people in this building carry one. And she's like, well, technically it's a dagger, so it's illegal. And I love how she was just like, look it up in the in the code book if you don't believe me. And Jackson's just like, well, he'll stop carrying it. And I don't know if it was like Alyssa's like, I think the right word I'm looking for is like diction or like tone of voice. I just liked how she delivered this like line, because she's like, that is the wrong lesson to learn here. And that if, Jackson's dad didn't teach him the difference between righteous and rigid, then he failed. Like if that wasn't the first thing he learned, then that was, not okay. And I think that kind of like just really got to Jackson, because we had met his father already before, and so like I feel like it just struck a chord with him. Something had to have changed, because at the end of the episode, Angela's walking out in plain clothes. Jackson stops her, saying how he's always wanted to be a cop. He like came in thinking he knew everything, and he can imagine how annoying that's been for Angela. And she's like, well, I wouldn't say annoying. And then she's like, well, yeah, okay, it's been annoying. Like she couldn't think of a better word.
Yeah.
And I just liked how Jackson was like, well, I want you to be the one to like teach me how to be a cop, even if some of the things Angela were to teach him contradict what his dad has originally taught. And he just thanks her for being there for him too. And it just made me sad, because now knowing what we know, like he's not, like that bond is not there anymore. And it just sucks, because like she really did make an impact on his like rookie career.
Well, and like even if he had gotten the chance to be a P2 more, like she would have continued to make an impact on him, and like, you know, his rookie career and like her being his TO, we would have seen hopefully that relationship like grow more, and that mentorship, and we didn't. Instead, we got a tragic ending.
But at least we can go back and watch these season 1 moments and have, I mean, obviously we have the, you know, other 3 seasons, but still, just like season 1, there's just something about like
Season 1, I think, was like peak Jackson West like chaos.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, and then just going into season 2, he carried so much of that weight still, I
Yeah.
think. And so he really just had to sort it out
Yeah.
really well. So, yeah. Oh, and the creme brulee, I forgot to mention, came back in the lie detector. Or, yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Polygraph.
Polygraph, yeah.
I was like, the hell is it? Yeah, because he was like, 1 minute you're, you know, thinking you're on the right path, and then the next minute you have a bite of creme brulee, and like all hell's broke loose. And Gray and Zoe just look at him like he has lost his mind, because it kind of sounds like he has. Because
Yeah.
even Lucy was like, or was it John? Maybe both of them, when they're sitting at that table, and he's like, how does creme brulee come up naturally in a conversation? Like, it just doesn't. So yeah, Jackson's whole creme brulee metaphor was finally shattered, I think, when Angela just told him, like, this is like what you need to learn.
Yeah. Well, and like you could see he was definitely struggling that with that on the inside, that he was focused on like the money and everything, but it wasn't like his main priority. Like, I would say Lucy's apartment was her like internal struggle. The creme brulee was his, and then the money thing was more so like John's.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, kind of speaking of Lucy, so we had the cold open with them, and the guy was in the gas mask. We know that Lucy's not sleeping, you know, and so there's not really like a good, like, we think that it's just kind of like, oh, she's fallen asleep on shift, and you know, this is just kind of like a dream or something. Well, we find out that it was a dream. So Tim's calling her boot, you know, and says like if she made him get out of the car for an hallucination. Um, and he kind of just stops right there because she does see the guy in the gas mask. But him calling her boot is just so hot. Like, I've honestly missed it.
Yeah.
I've missed it. So then, you know, like the whole gas mask thing is kind of creepy until we find out it's just like it is more of a hallucination than like a dream or anything. And really it's the headlight shining in, and Lucy had fallen asleep on midnight shift. So Tim, you know, takes her picture, and then he like kind of smirks and he's like, welcome to the midnight shift. And yeah, so she's already got a picture of him on her phone in like season 2.
Yeah.
So this is his first picture of her on his phone.
Yeah,
right?
this is the first picture, like, period for
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, that's
I just love her. She's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of reminded me of like the Michael Scott, like, no,
Yeah.
no thing.
Well, and the way that he like got so up close to get it. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then like smirk and like a slight eye roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So when they are canon and they like get together, I'm gonna need them to like print out and frame like all the pictures that they've taken of each other.
Oh my
Like,
god,
please.
yeah. Or just
But
like put them in their lockers and
Yes.
like, hey.
Yeah. Like, make it a collage, make it like a framed picture, just something, a blanket, something, because we need it. We need it.
So funny.
Yeah, so then Lucy's walking into the district the next day, and Nolan shows her his shirt with her picture on it. And Lucy's just like, just wait until it's your turn, officer, in bed by 10. And at first I was like, because I didn't watch this episode in a while, I was like, wait, why would she know that? And I was like, Oh yeah, because they used to, be a couple. And I was just like, no. And then at this point, because I again hadn't seen the episode in a while, I was like, if we get a Nolan and Lucy moment, like I probably will like throw up. Like I don't know. It's like, oh my god, I'm not prepared for it.
Yeah. Well, and if I think too much about it, I'm just like,
Yeah.
like that's just too weird. Like
Yeah.
to remember that they were a thing, and yeah.
Yeah.
So I choose to focus on the fact that Nolan was like, Tim had shirts made.
Yep.
Like, of course he did.
Yeah.
Like, as if she wouldn't expect anything less.
So then John like shows Jackson his shirt, and Jackson's all like giddy and excited, and he's like, oh yeah, I wore mine in too. And you can tell Lucy's just like over it. Like she's tired, she's just not in the mood. And then as I was thinking, I was like, okay, so John and Jackson both were able to wear theirs into the district. Assuming other people had theirs too. Tim worked fast to get those shirts made and distributed so that they could walk in with them.
Yeah.
And also, like, how did he distribute them? Like, did he just stand outside of the district and have them? I just have questions.
I know, right? And I'm just like, if it's assumed that like it was like the like right after, so like you're telling me he wasted, well, not wasted, but he spent his like precious sleeping hours time, or like if they were like, I guess I don't know, are they still on? I don't know if like, because like when Lucy first walked in, John was like, "Are you happy to be back on days?" So then how would Tim do it if they're on shift like the whole night? Like I don't know if it's
Right.
like they're on shift from like is it midnight to 6, or is it like how long does that midnight shift go, or is it like a 10 to 4 in the morning? Then
Right.
Tim at 4 a.m. like walks over to some like to go
T-shirt pressing place.
yeah.
But even then, like those places don't open at 4 a.m. So it's
Yeah,
like,
so I'm
do you
like,
have like a t-shirt press like at your house? Like I just have questions.
yeah.
I just have
Or
questions.
did he call like a 800 company?
Yeah.
Like, can you order me like 10 of these shirts, please?
I mean, because we know that it was the next morning. So yeah, I just like I have questions.
Yeah. And just I mean,
And like how many did he order? Like
yeah.
was it just 10? Was it 400? Like I need to know.
And
Does he have
still have one?
leftovers?
Yeah. Does he still have one? And just because he made her the jersey too, like in
Yeah.
the one episode, we just have questions. That
I
honestly,
mean, does he like have a shirt guy?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, that
yeah,
honestly seems like something he would have though, is like a
yeah.
shirt guy.
Oh, for sure. Also, I need him to like make stupid shirts like that, like revolving other characters too.
Oh my god, yeah.
But yet, I only want it to be a Lucy thing because it'll just show like, yeah, he's kind
or
of.
if they do get together though,
That's
and
their
he like
thing.
made her a shirt with like one of like a picture of like him, and like Kojo.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like our Chenford fam shirt.
Yeah.
I would literally pass out.
Yeah.
I would. Or like, oh my gosh. Or if one night she stays over at his house and she's like, I need like a shirt to wear to bed or whatever. And he gives her one with her picture on it.
That'd be hilarious.
Oh my god.
I thought you were gonna say he like takes a photo of her like when she first wakes up or something, then puts that on a shirt.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
See, now we're just making like headcanons.
Yeah. But like I feel like he would have a Proud Dog Dad shirt with like Kojo's picture or something on it. Yeah.
If not, Lucy would buy one for him.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, but anyway, back to the episode. So Lucy's like, it's not the shirts that like make her mad. Like they do annoy her, but it's more so like she can't find a place to live. And Jackson's like, well, you can move back home. And she's like, nope, I can't, not an option. And Jackson's like, well, you could like bunk up with Nolan then. And Nolan's face says what I'm thinking too. He's a meme again. And he's just like, yeah, I guess my couch is all yours. And like at this point I'm just like, no. Like, Nolan can be the nice guy, but like, I don't know. Like, no, she doesn't need to crash on his couch. So, oh, also it's worth mentioning here that she is wearing her ring from Dave Dots. So it's a season 1 piece of wardrobe too. Which our friend Rachel was in Rhode Island, I want to say, and she had found that ring or a similar ring. And she said that it was like super expensive. So it's kind of fun when you see pieces of wardrobe, like pieces, like items that kind of resemble the wardrobe that they use.
Like all those like shop your TV like style sites will have like, you know, where you can buy clothing from some of your favorite shows. And I'm like, kind of want to know if they have like the Rookie.
They might, yeah.
Kind of want to. I might investigate after we're done with this and see.
For sure. Yeah. I know you helped me find a dress that a celebrity like wore in a photo shoot or whatever.
Well, I've done that for work, like found celebrity clothing. So I think I am pretty good at it, but I don't know about TV stuff though, because I don't know if it's like if brands will send them things, you know, or like they can you know, like use them, or if it is like all custom made. Probably depends on what it is for.
Yeah. Or if it's like thrifted pieces, you know, that they like
or like
can't find any of that anymore. Yeah. But yeah, she's like, you know, I'll find a clean, affordable place, like even if it kills me. Which cut to the end. Yeah.
Clever. I didn't even realize that. Wow.
I didn't either until I, you know, had just said that line and I was like, wait a minute, that did not really work out in her favor. But anyway, like Chenford's main call is at a fertility clinic. And you know, like while they're walking in, Lucy kind of brings up the whole freebie thing, and she's like, you know, we haven't received a freebie since we've been partnered together. And she asks why he defended that to Gray, and he's just like, because hard rules like that are stupid and circumstances dictate actions. And yeah, he's just like serious about it. And you know, like there's been a break-in and Tim's just like, yeah, you know, there's a rash of burglaries in the area. It's mostly addicts looking for stuff to sell. And the clinic doctor is just like, oh, it wasn't an addict. Like they took embryos. They knew what they were coming here for. And Tim's just like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what to do with that. And Lucy's not even really sure on what she should write it up as, whether it's a burglary or an abduction. And Tim's just like, do you want to put out 50 Amber Alerts? Like, it's a burglary. Which also, like, how meta is it that they're investigating a crime at a fertility clinic? Like, we obviously know what happens now in the conversations in the later seasons about Lucy's fertility, but like, it was just kind of a weird thing that I picked up on. And like, the Rookie is good at parallels, so
like, you don't talk about foreshadowing. Like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching this, I was like, were we like supposed to catch on to this at some point? But I don't think we were supposed to, but
I highly doubt it. But maybe they just kind of went back to that.
Yeah. It was interesting, that's for sure. So then the doctor tells Tim, you know, that there's a crucial time element because without proper temperature control, like the embryos can be compromised. And so, you know, like Chenford asks if there's any idea on who took them, and the doctor's like, oh yeah, it's part of an ugly custody dispute. Like there's a lesbian couple whose eggs were only harvested from one of the women, Marilyn, and her ex is suing for custody rights, even though she does not have any biological connection. So, you know, Chenford like gets more information, and you know, the doctor is like, well, you should know that when I called Marilyn, like she was very upset, and said she was going to kill her ex. So, you know, like just as a heads up. And Chenford arrives at Marilyn's address and they instantly hear two women screaming. They walk in to see one holding a weapon and one holding the test tubes in the air in one hand and a piece of decor to protect herself in the other. So Tim talks the woman with the test tubes down and ends up like cuffing her. And then Lucy just, tells him that it doesn't feel right that they're locking up Marilyn too, because she was trying to protect her embryos. And Tim's like, well, we can't do anything. Like, she committed assault. And, he's just like, domestic violence laws are strict for a reason. So, she kind of brings up his line from earlier, and she's like, what happened to circumstances dictate actions? And he's just like, that is one rule that I'm all for. But according to him, cemeteries are filled with women who would still be alive if cops had been forced to hook up their spouses the second he or she laid hands. And Lucy's just kind of like under her breath, like, she's like, that's an enlightened attitude. And he sasses back with, you seem surprised. But then she, like, the sass just never ends with them. And she's just like, sir, you surprise me every day. Yeah, I bet you guys surprise each other, like, honestly.
Yeah. I kind of like when Tim was talking about like his stance on it though, I kind of wondered if like, since we know how much of an asshole his dad was, like, didn't know if he was ever like that way with like their mom. And so I didn't know if like he kind of was thinking about that and kind of, like that maybe was like a connection for him. But
yeah, I feel like I kind of had that headcanon and mentioned that when we were covering the episode in the fall, but I don't fully remember.
Yeah, well, because it's still,
because we know that Tim was kind of messed up by his dad.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But yeah, because it's not like I can't really think of another like situation or like possibility where that would come in, or like, I mean, he obviously can just care. There's no, he doesn't have to have a, personal connection. But I don't know, just the way he was talking about it, and I just, knowing what we know now, I just kind of thought, no, unfortunately, maybe that is the connection.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I kind of feel like his dad was like that. But maybe it's also just because, like, I don't know. I think that about one of our other favorite characters too. I'm like, yeah, the dad was totally like abusive and verbally, mentally, and physically. And I'm just like, why? Why do I like kind of automatically go to that thinking? But yeah, I don't know. Well, because the two male characters are similar to me, and so I'm just like, well, if one's like that, it's probably the other two. I don't know. So then John like meets up with Lucy like after they get back, and he's like, how's your day going? And he tells her about one of his calls. And when she asks how it was, he's thinking that she's meaning the actual call. So he's like kind of caught off guard, and he's like, oh, it was gruesome. And but she really meant the apartment. So, he was like, oh, it's nice, like surprisingly upscale for a gang member. And when asked if she's asking about the apartment for herself, she's like, well, the building needs to disclose if someone was killed in the apartment. So it might even mean like a break in rent. And John's just like, that's a questionable way to find a place to live. And Lucy just is like, I have no other option. So this is what I'm going with. And at the end of the episode, they're all off shift, and Jackson visits Lucy at her new place. She's excited to show him, and he points out that there's that giant blood stain on the rug. And she's like, yeah, that's how I'm getting like 25% off for the first year. And Jackson's just like, so are you sure it's not because you're a cop? And, she's like, the landlord didn't even know until after he gave me the deal. And, apparently he was all eager to get it done. And she even said that she would take it as is. And that's why Jackson is there, to help her clean up a crime scene. And she promises him dinner afterwards. I wish that we got to see more of this apartment right then, because I'm like, to me, it doesn't resemble where she is now.
No, I know, like they had to have painted and done some like major
like build out or something, because it seems like it was very little.
Yeah. Or just like, yeah, that's the thing is I don't know, like I want to know. Maybe that's like a William question.
Yeah.
Maybe of just like, do they think like so far ahead where like, oh, we could possibly show this apartment again? Like, shouldn't
Right.
we
Yeah. That's what
make
I
it
was
exact? Or
thinking.
do they really think that people are going to pick up on that or not?
Yeah.
Because I know people are definitely not like me and notice things like that. Like most
Yeah.
people probably don't even care. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
what I was
definitely
thinking.
paint job, different, like, moving things around.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got the blood stain cleaned up.
Yeah.
Oh
Or at
man,
least like the rug changed out. I don't
yeah,
know. That's what I was thinking is maybe like they weren't sure that they were ever going to show her apartment again or something. And so like it was just kind of a little area that they used to film. I don't know.
yeah,
But
yeah. Because then the whole Jackson moving in thing
mhm,
didn't happen until season 2.
yeah. So that's kind of it for 113. I mean, this episode seemed, I don't know, shorter to me.
Yeah,
It
well,
was
I think it's
weird.
because it was like 3 main storylines where usually
Yeah.
we at least have some kind of um, what is it, like A, B, C, so like D side
Mhm.
plot,
Yeah.
but we didn't really have that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't say that this is like my favorite episode. Like I don't usually like I won't usually go back and like rewatch this one like if I'm just like in the mood to
yeah.
watch something. Um but it was a good episode. I forgot like,
Mhm.
like some things that happened. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
as did I.
Yeah. But that is it for us this week. You guys can find us on Twitter at the Shop Talk Pod _. If you're not already following us, you can follow us there. You can also email us at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com with all of your thoughts. We've got some fun things planned for the summer, so we'll definitely, be sharing more of that soon. And yeah, you can find us individually on Twitter as well. I'm at jstark804.
And I'm at Kara Hyman.
And we'll be back next week with a new episode talking about Clean Cut. Um, because the rookie rewatch ladies are covering that episode along with 120 for Titus's birthday on Friday.
Mhm.
And surprisingly, we haven't done Clean Cut yet, so that'll be a really fun episode because we get Jackson West when he thinks that he's high and he's not.
Yeah.
So
And a
yeah,
pretty good Chenford parallel.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's it for us. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Go get him, boo.